So awesome. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Very happy to be here. Month three, community connections. This is all about community engagement. And let's take a look at what we're going to cover today. We're going to do a quick review of month two. Then I want to do some quick status share outs. I'm talking 30 to 45 seconds just to share out with the group of what work have you been doing, where your project is at, what the thinking currently is. And then we're going to get into our discussion about community engagement. We have another case study today from the fictional town of Wimberley. And then we'll be talking about our project flyer, best practices, which we will need for next month when we meet in person again, and we'll give a more kind of more of a status update on where our projects is, and we'll be asking for each other's peer review and feedback on that. But we'll get more into that later. And then what comes next? So let's do a quick review of what we talked about last month, which I don't know about you, it seems like a century ago. So let's see, we'll refresh all of our memories here. So last month, we really talked about developing a project plan, and we started the conversation off about why projects fail. And we had a really great discussion about that. We identified 6, but then we also talked about a few more. So top reasons why projects fail, right? Lack of clear vision, insufficient leadership, limited community engagement, which we're going to talk about today, resistance to change, inadequate resources, and scope creep. I remember we also brought up volunteers getting burned out. Absolutely. We talked about, of course, not getting the funding that we need to get the project done. But then we also identified what areas we feel like our team is most susceptible of being challenged with. And so that was a really great discussion. Then we reintroduced this apple tree matrix, which is up on the screen now. And this is a really great tool to categorize our ideas. Are they worthwhile ideas, projects, tasks that we should pursue today, maybe tomorrow, or maybe they're on the back burner until it becomes a better option for us. Right now, we're focused in that lower right quadrant, the quick wins, so that we can see the most tangible, visible, incremental change in our downtowns. We want to build up that momentum. And so if we do a lot of these quick wins, right, they build up to an impactful progress that we see. We talked about the different perspectives of project management. So the life stages, this is an area where we can think about the planning, we can think about the operations, but what about that maintenance piece? What about that sustainability piece of a project? So we want to incorporate that into our project planning. But then we also looked at the functional areas of a project. And so a lot of times in projects that we're talking about here, there's a fundraising component. That is a project all into itself if it's not already provided, right? Then there is the outreach promotional piece that needs its own kind of project plan, if you will. And then lastly, that operational implementation part of the plan. And then we went through the project plan template that we're using here for this program, where it kind of breaks everything down into really visible template. Sound good? Anyone have any comments, questions, light bulb moments that have happened since our meeting last month? All right, very good.
I can add one thing.
Please.
I was thinking about like the concept of like one thing that maybe gets in the way that I was just thinking of how we can work through in Fairfield is like the idea of jumping from branch to branch of different kinds of events or activities or promotions before figuring out like just the core means of how people get how different businesses get involved with any of these things, and or like the core values that all these events are sharing. So just
Mm,
like solidifying roots, I was just thinking about that as something that came up since the last.
I love that. Yeah, having the core values, right, to guide all the activities that we do. Yeah, very good. Great. Okay. Now I want to hear from every team again that high level just status update. Does anyone want to go first, or I'll start picking on folks?
Well, since Matt started with observations, that's kind of an apt description of where we are. So we've been spending a lot of time talking about different ideas. Our project proposal is developing a marketing strategy and plan to create a greater awareness within the community about our newly recognized cultural district. And so we've discussed a number of ideas, things that we could do to raise awareness, but and all of which will contribute eventually, be part of a plan. But we do need to, go back, as Matt suggests, to focus on some of the key foundational aspects of it before moving further. But we're already, everyone wants to jump ahead to the, let's do this, let's do that, which is all good. And we have some things coming up, some opportunities that really would help us, create awareness. But we need to spend, I think, a little bit of time, solidifying the roots, as Matt put it. So that's
Yeah.
good, good segue.
Awesome. That's really great to hear. All right, who's next? Who wants to go next? Who wants to go next?
Well, I'll jump in for Westbrook. Since we met last time, we had a couple of great project related meetings. Our project is, a simple one to improve the lighting illumination of our town green and one of our downtown parks in partnership. But we had a great site walk with the group and some community leaders to kind of take in the existing conditions and identify some of the opportunities that are out there. And then we also maybe jumped the gun a little bit, but we had kind of a community stakeholders meeting, to float the idea amongst some of the decision makers and some of the stakeholders, just to make sure that the idea worked for some of those organizations who have a vested interest in the town green. Not only was there great support for the project, there were a couple of funding opportunities identified and some definitive willingness to support the project financially when we get to that point. So we've also are waiting for some, cost estimates from a contractor for the project as well. So things are starting to come together in a pretty nice way, which is a great reinforcement for the team on the work that they're doing. So we're very happy to report that.
Very exciting. Awesome. Great work, guys. Who's next?
I can give an update for Vernon.
Great.
We, since last meeting, we sort of nailed down a project. We're going to do a public mural installation on the corner of a highly trafficked road into our downtown and into our cultural district. It's going to go right across from where some redevelopment is happening right now. Right now, we're at the part of talking about community engagement. So this is perfect timing for this session.
Perfect. Perfect. Awesome. Uh, and someone from Deep River?
Stacy, I don't know if you want to also jump in because I think you have a lot that you can update on right now. Sage, our project lead, is dealing with the customer. But We did narrow our project down to the lamppost banners. So we have started, one of our team members has started drafting up the flyer for doing some community outreach and informational um, piece of the project. And we've had a lot of crossover and conversations with the 250 committee that is planning on events obviously related to the 250th uh, year of our country. So there's probably going to be some overlap with the first round of banner designs that relate to that work that's already happening to help kind of connect the dots on current community initiatives and simultaneously lay the groundwork for longer term promotional abilities by having brackets installed to be able to do interchangeable promotional banners down Main Street. So that's kind of the overview, but my team can.
Yeah, we did get two bids for the materials and the brackets and decided on one company. So we also have a budget already in place and a piece for the selectmen that we haven't voted on or done anything yet. And I think maybe we were just thinking about this. We have a table on Saturday at our first 250th event in downtown, just with the we have a banner that was sent to us by the company, and so we can have some information available then for people to look at. So
Oh, lovely.
that's about it.
Excellent. Wow, you guys are doing really awesome work here. And I am correct. No one from Torrington is here right now, right? Okay. All right. Very good. We can move on. Excellent work, guys. And it sounds like today's topic of community engagement is like right on track. I know that I've mentioned this like 1,000 times before, but this program is obviously like step by step, but it doesn't mean that, we're jumping around, we're doing a lot of things all at once, but, keep in mind that this program is not only to help, this project today, but all your future projects and give you a framework, right, for future endeavors, future initiatives that you want to take on. So you can take these best practices and use them in another work down the road. Very good. So let's get into today's discussion, which is community engagement. We love it. We hate it. It's vital. It's important. We can't do our work without it. And I want to just start off because I know we all do community engagement in our day-to-day lives here. So let's talk about it. I want to hear from you. How do you define community engagement? Why do we do it? Why is it important? Why is it sometimes so hard? I'd love just to open up a discussion first.
Well, you're looking for community support for whatever it is you're working on to make sure it's going to be well received in the community and by the stakeholders impacted by it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. What else?
You do it because you want to build something that the community actually wants and values, and you don't just want to come in and, with a plan that doesn't align with what your community values.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Definitely.
As to issues, it's sometimes hard to identify who the community is and who the stakeholders are. Sometimes there are folks that you don't really know that have a vested interest in these outcomes and can come to the table unexpectedly and
Mm-hmm.
offer their 2 cents. So it's sometimes hard to identify who the folks are.
Yeah, that's a great point. When we talk about community engagement, sometimes in our mind it's like this monolithic group of people, but it's actually a lot of different groups, and even more niche groups depending on if you're in a larger city. There could be even more niche demographic groups, right? So that can definitely be challenging. How do you reach everyone? Yeah.
So that puts a emphasis on trying different techniques to make sure you're getting the broadest possible representation,
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
not everyone can come out to a meeting or attend a workshop or something like that. So
Exactly. Exactly. Any other comments on community engagement,
I guess I can take a
please?
shot. So one of the hardest things for me with community engagement, however important it is, and we all know it is from time to time you just get that vocal minority, that group that shows up for everything as if they speak for everyone, and that tends to derail a lot of good, well-intentioned projects. So
Right. The squeaky wheel. It's a true cliche. Right? Yep.
Beverly, you seem to agree with that.
Well, because there always is, that's just even a life statement, right? In general. Community engagement, I think the Chamber of Commerce and what Mark and Mary Alice and our team does all together for this project is we're pretty active in our community in a variety of different ways. And actually, last year we came together and decided to have like a business after hours just to say thank you to our local business community and to let them know how much we appreciate what they do and
Mm,
vice versa. What Mark and his department, Mary Alice, what we do back for that. We've got our nonprofits and art and museums. And as we're wrapping this around our cultural district, we might do a nice relaunch of it, tying it into this and make it a little bigger and more exciting and a little different. We got rained out a little bit last year, so so we've got some ideas on the table. But I think everyone kind of on our team, we try every day to do something a little bit, and we are engaged, and so we will just be expanding that, I think, through this program.
yeah. I love, Beverly, what you said there about showing appreciation. I think when we use the word community engagement, at least what comes up for me a lot of times is I don't want to say transactional, but there's
Yeah.
there's a reason behind why we're doing community engagement. We want to do something, we want support, we want sponsorships, we want donors, but the thank you. I don't want anything from you except to thank you.
Right.
Is a really important piece where it's just relationship building, right?
It really is. It really is. And our slogan for the chamber is building relationships and building business.
Mm-hmm.
And I think collectively, it's not just the chambers. We all think that and feel that in Fairfield, and we work toward that, a lot. And even with our shop and strolls, many of our events and things are to feature and bring people into town, not only our primary community, but bring other people to see what Fairfield is about and what we have to offer as well. So we drive people in through events and programs and education and museums and music and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But we will do the thank you again this year, and it is important to say thank you and recognize our business community kind of in a special way.
Yeah, yeah, love it. Excellent. Yeah, so here, I don't have a concise, definition of community engagement because it's about building relationships, it's about, developing trust, it's about following through, right? Community
Mm.
engagement is a really large word, and we're not here focused on kind of nice definitions, but action. And so you have this graphic here in your binder. This is on tab 4, page 60. And when I saw this methodology of community engagement, first, has anyone else seen this before?
Yeah.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, this is from uh, the International Federation of, I think, Public Participation or something of that nature. And for me, when I saw this, it was a personal kind of light bulb because I hadn't seen it before. of really breaking down the spectrum of community engagement based on goals. And so the big thing here that we're going to be talking about community engagement is that there's a lot of variables we need to take into consideration. So first up is, what are our goals in this, community outreach endeavor? Different goals have different tools. And we can see here, let me get the little laser pointer out. Up here, there's these 5 categories of have increasing level of participation. So starting with informing, right? That's that one-way street. So some examples of the tools: it's the fact sheet, it's the website, social media. I mean, social media, there could be a little back and forth, but for the most part, we're broadcasting messages. And today, we're going to be talking about a project flyer, right? That's just one tool in our toolbox for community engagement, is that fact sheet, right? But then moving along, we have our surveys, public meetings, which, we've already been talking about. Some groups have started to do those focus groups. And then we get into even more participation from the community in being part of building the project, of making decisions. And actually, I mean, some of our teams here, right? They are a conglomeration of different stakeholders of the downtown. So we are even getting into this collaborative and empowerment, a space of community engagement. But again, the key thing is that depending on our goal, we need to use the right outreach mechanisms. And this is where we can get a lot of community fatigue and overall distrust from the community if, let's say, they are being surveyed after surveyed, workshop after workshop, and then nothing happens. There is no follow through. There is nothing ever comes out of our surveys. Or if and this might be a poor example, but if we're going to be asking community input on something about water safety, but really there is no point, because water safety is water safety, and we have to reach statute levels of cleanliness, or et cetera, right? So we want to make sure that we understand what we're trying to do with the community and have the right tools to engage and work with them. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Has anyone used, actually, no, I'm going to ask that question a little bit here. So in the same vein of using different tools, excuse me one second. Okay. I just for a minute forgot there if I was recording, but I am. Okay. Okay, moving on. So different audiences, aligned messages. So in the same vein of a lot of variabilities, we first and foremost need to understand that each stakeholder has different goals, agendas, challenges, wants, and needs. And there is, on page 61 of your binder, a list of different stakeholders that may or may not exist in your downtown ecosystem. This list here is not exhaustive by any means, but to Mark's point earlier, there's a lot of different groups that are involved in the downtown, and it's important to make sure we know about them. We take note of them so that we know who to engage with, when we need to engage with, depending on our projects. Other stakeholders are going to care more than others, right? And then once we've identified those stakeholders, know what they need so that we can tailor our messaging. So when we're giving a presentation, right, to a group of high school students, our message to them is going to be very different than to the Board of Selectmen. And obviously, we know that, but it can be a lot more nuanced when we're talking in more similar groups, business owners versus property owners, right? There can be more nuanced in messaging. And so it's important for us to really understand and get into the minds of these different stakeholder groups. And so another kind of worksheet that you'll see in your binder is on page 64. And I would love for you and your teams to think through some of your key audiences for this project. And up on the screen here is kind of that worksheet, but filled out a bit, where looking at a downtown business owner. Okay, their goals are they want to make more money, they want to boost sales, they want brand visibility, and their challenges are they have some staffing shortages, they have competition from online folks, and what they want is they want marketing, they want clean, safe streets, right? And then similarly, doing that exercise for property owners. What do they want? Okay, well, they want, rent growth. They care about their long-term investment here. So they're concerned about vacancies, about capital they need for improvement costs. They're really, on top of market conditions and checking that out. So want to make sure they're in a stable environment, right? And so on and so forth. So this exercise will really help us, especially when we talk about our project flyer that we need to create, is understanding who we are communicating with for our project. So, any questions about this before I move on? Very good. This is pretty easy to understand. Where it can start getting a little more nuanced and tricky if we don't day in and day out live in the PR world, in a marketing copywriting world, is how does that translate to different messages? Here's an example from an organization based in Washington State called Tacoma on the Go. They are a resource convener and advocate for safe mobility for all. And a few years ago, they developed a communications plan that was really focused on wanting to bring more awareness that there's other modes of transportation to get to and move around the city of Tacoma, right? And I'm gonna read these out here just so you can see the slight nuances. So for this first audience, anyone whose daily life is downtown. So the key message to them is transportation choices other than the single occupancy vehicle are individually and collectively beneficial for many reasons. So, getting to the city in other ways than just a car, there's a lot of reasons why you would want to do that. Downtown employers. Transportation options are critical to downtown economic development, creating a vibrant downtown that is about the movement of people on the street rather than the movement of cars, right? So for downtown employers, they're caring more about economic development, a vibrant downtown. For downtown property owners play a critical role in providing incentives for residents to locate downtown and do so without frequent use of a car, right? So from these three examples, and you may or may not agree with these key messages here, but the point is to show that this group has the goal of wanting people to use other modes of transportation than just their cars. And they are taking that goal and aligning the messaging to fit each of these different stakeholder groups that's part of their downtown. So when we think about our projects, like I'm thinking about the Deep Rivers banner projects, for example. Why do the residents care versus the sponsors who might be on the banners themselves because they're sponsoring it? Why, maybe we're going to be telling Public Works that they need to do all this work for us. How can we make sure they're on our side, right? What's the key messaging that we have to give to the municipality, right? We can break down our projects and align our messaging to resonate with each of these groups. Great. In the same vein here too, different audiences, different channels. So like everything else, we need to be flexible. We need to meet our stakeholder groups where they're at. and communicate with them in the way that they want to be reached. This diagram here is available in your binder as a resource on page 62, providing a nice kind of spread of different options and tools that are available for community outreach. Some are more lower cost items, others are more budget intensive. And then also in your binder, right behind this, is a social media chart of an up-to-date list of kind of the social media landscape and who's on what platforms and the challenges of those platforms and what content does best on social media. We know social media is really important to how we get the message off, but not all platforms are the same. It's a challenging communication channel, but it's important. So anyways, that table there on page 63 can help give you some guidance there. But I want to hear from you. What channels have worked well for you? Maybe something new that you've implemented in your community, or examples of working smarter, not harder, when it comes to getting the message out. I'm thinking of Norwich, the city of Norwich. They have a platform called Envision 360, where it is it kind of functions like a social media site, but it's much more controlled as it's just focused on community projects. And so the city can post about a project or initiative, and it has a whole chat forum below there for people to give their input on. That has been very successful for them. Any other tools that you have used?
Another tool that we've used is email. But you have to have the contacts built into an audience in order to do that. But my town, I live in Ellington, my town has a regular email that goes out from the business, well, it's not really even on the business side, so it's for residents.
Yep. I love email. Email is great.
Yeah, Deep River has a weekly email that goes out to anyone who's signed up for it, which I think is probably at least 50% of the town, I would like to assume. But every Friday, our first selectman sends a newsletter via email, and it's pretty detailed and lengthy, but it's, bullet pointing everything that's going on from meetings she's attended to what certain groups are doing in town. So for us, that is going to be definitely an easy kind of already built-in resource in addition to whatever else we come up with.
Love it. Love it. That's awesome. Building on what's already there. Let's not reinvent the wheel.
Right.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
What age range do you define boomers as?
So what is it? That is, I do not have a personal opinion. Yeah, I see that you're looking at the chart.
I see boomers as my parents' age, like, mid 70s and up. And there's a gap in ages on the social media platforms here. From age 50 to 70 is not listed anywhere. So I'm wondering if they're not online or if there was just maybe something missed.
And you know what? I thank you for catching that, because I pulled this exactly from the website, but that I took this from. But I just Googled this real quick. So the baby boomer generation is typically defined as people born between 1946 and 1964. So currently in 60s to early 80s. Thanks for calling that
Do you
out.
agree that Facebook has a weak organic reach? I'm curious for other opinions in the group. Not to get into a debate, I'm just curious because personally I try to stay off of Facebook, but I am on it for multiple businesses, and I'm curious because is that a place where even as a business owner should you be investing there?
Yeah, agreed. The organic reach is diminished and it's more pay to play now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very
Oh, Westbrook, are you guys saying something? Sorry, we couldn't hear you.
Yeah, we have a community TV channel that hosts pretty regular shows and panels, so we do use that on occasion. The other thing that we now use is we have an electronic message board out in front of Town Hall, which was a big controversy when it first came in, but now we get criticized if we don't use it to promote events and meetings and all that kind of stuff. So people now look to it for upcoming events and activities, which is kind of a different thing than we've done in the past.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Yeah.
Kristen,
Go
can
ahead.
sorry,
Oh.
can I add something from Fairfield? Just to
Please,
echo,
please.
we have a lot of the same things that everyone else has mentioned, which has been really great, especially getting the word out across different channels, whether it's email or social or our First Select Persons newsletter. But I think what's really nice with our town too is a lot of our community partners work together to get the word out. So if it's not necessarily an event that they're hosting, but just, you know, a goodwill kind of thing, they'll put our event in their newsletter or vice versa. So there's some nice cross pollination there with different entities through town too, which we've seen a lot of success with.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, those partnerships are really important. Some other examples and kind of the working smarter, not harder question here. Influencers, right? Local or state influencers to magnify the message of what you're doing. Who are the people who are, just leaders? They know everyone. They're that informal mayor, right? How could they be part of the marketing outreach, getting the word out? There's also a more formalized way. I believe it was Macon, Georgia, their Main Street program developed this hype team, which was basically kind of like a local ambassador team where there's a little bit of an application process and it's for people who have social media accounts and they're given content to promote on whatever, regular basis, but as a way of reaching past their own their main streets channel, and which, as we talk about, Facebook can have some challenges with organic outreach, but if it's a real person, the mom who has the connections to everyone in town, being part of the hype team has worked really well from that for them. We do have a resource of that on our community platform, so if anyone's interested in that, I can send the link to that, more information there. Very good. So basically, the key point here is that one size does not fit all, right? We need to be nimble. We need to make sure that we're not just using one message, one communication channel, one community engagement strategy to reach who we need to reach. And that's why it's so hard, is because we can't just do one thing and rinse and repeat 1,000 times. We have to be intentional about how we are conducting our community engagement. A couple other resources that I want to bring your attention to is Laura Peary. You might know her name. She has Laura Peary Architects consulting firm based in New Haven. She's also our board president. She recorded a video on running effective meetings for us that you can find on page 2, page 18 of your binder. And a lot of what she talks about in this recording is community engagement and some tips to help you with community engagement, and particularly messaging and using a lot of different tools to make sure everyone's communicating and thinking about the same thing. The other resource here is community engagement cards by Reimagining the Civic Commons. This is a really great tool. It's a deck of cards. You can print them out or not, but it's a PDF where it breaks down common challenges in community engagement and then provides a lot of tactical ways to overcome that challenge. There's quite a lot. So I encourage you to check that out. If you keep on hearing from the same people over and over again, you're trying to reach a different group of people that you've been having a hard time reaching out to, take a look at that resource there for some different ideas. Very good. Now we are going to take a moment here to talk about our case study. Did everyone have a chance to read the case study in the binder? I'm seeing some head nods. Very good, very good. Okay, so we're gonna break out into groups here. Hopefully they work this time because last time it was a bit of a mess. We're gonna take about, I think, 10 or 15 minutes here. The goal here, yes, we are. Welcome back, everyone. Let's talk about Wimberley, my favorite fictional town. I don't know. I love that name, Wimberley. I'd love to go there.
Is it in Australia? I think so.
Oh,
Is
it
it?
is?
I will believe you. Yeah, it's in Australia. Yeah,
Sounds far away.
it does. It does. Very good. So let's talk about this case study. So before we get into the questions, just any kind of first comments, thoughts, parallels that you see in your town or in previous experiences.
I think in our group, we thought about anticipating what the opposition might be and kind of know what it is, and certainly present the ideas out to everyone first. So it's a level playing field for all parties who would be interested in it. And think about what the opposition might be and build that into the first announcement that goes out to show benefits of the project.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, I think in our group, Sean and I have both lived all these experiences at one time or another. So
I'm sure
despite best intentions,
it
Yeah.
crops up.
Yeah. Yeah. What else? What came up for you in this case study? Any one of these questions that you want to take on? So what were the consequences of waiting until the opposition arises to begin meaningful engagement? Maybe what
You're swimming upstream at that point, and it's
Yeah.
really going to be hard. The horse
Yeah.
is out of the barn. Hate to use those analogies, but you know, you're in a tough spot after that starts to happen, and should never try and be in that position at all on a project like this. So
yeah, you definitely lost the room. Sean and I were talking about the fact that there's a lack of trust generally nowadays. So it doesn't take much to go into that narrative to reinforce that narrative that you got some ulterior motive or something up your sleeve. You're trying to put one past folks. So
Yeah.
as was indicated, once that sets in, you're kind of cooked.
Yeah.
I also think that after the distrust, there comes like the disengagement on a more like purposeful level. So now they're going to have an even harder time engaging with the public on, this project, but also future projects, which is not what you want.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, like a very thin way of looking at community engagement where you do everything and then you just throw it onto the public without any engagement before it's done. So it doesn't seem like a good formula.
If Wimberley could rewind the clock, what are some steps that they should have taken instead? If you were this was it the town planner, what would you have done to avoid this?
well, it looks like they did engage with some of the most important stakeholders in the first place. So, as we just discussed, put that list together, make sure all the key folks are involved right out of the gate. So that would have probably gone a long way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, in this case study, there's a bid and they weren't even part of the conversation. Yeah. But sorry, I cut someone off.
Yeah, I just think showing maybe examples of success and, this project is a little different, but this town did this and collectively came together and was able to formulate a successful pathway to achieve as best as you can, because as Mark just said, it's out there for sure, but I think to just continually show success and benefits of projects that worked.
That is excellent advice. There's a lot of, and we kind of talking about community engagement in our first discussion, there's a lot of acronyms out there to describe groups of people. Some are really fun. The one that we really like to use is CAVE people, Citizens Against Virtually Everything.
Oh.
And we all have cave people in our communities. And I don't know if any of you were here for our TOD summit that we had last spring, I believe in Parkville Market. And on one of our panels, we had the developer Greg Vaca, who was working on a project in Windsor. And he was taking kind of a really ugly strip mall development that was right in downtown, very ugly, and he was tearing it down and building, back up mixed use housing and all this. And when he was starting to do community engagement, people were yelling at him and everything like that. And there were people who had lived for, a very long time in Windsor. And it's like, oh, I remember when it used to be this, da, 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 da. So then he showed a rendering of the development, and it looked like the traditional development of like the row houses with the housing above the commercial retail on the ground floor. And these people who were so up in arms against him were like, oh, that's what you're building? Oh, that's great. And it talks about how important a visual is, or write that example, of showing, hey, this is what this community has done. Even better when you can find kind of a proxy, a sister community, if you will, that's similar makeup, similar character or whatever, what they've done in their town. That's always super helpful. Yeah. Very good. Any other comments about this case study?
Well, I think
Sorry,
go ahead.
Oh, Dan, go ahead.
All right. Yeah. So in our discussion group, we were talking about, that these are the one you just mentioned. And in the case study, there's are major changes to the town. And ours is, basically a banner for a light post. And we're just trying to brainstorm like who would oppose it? Like we're kind of, we haven't really engaged the community, but we're not even sure, like, I guess what stakeholders wouldn't approve of something like that, I guess, was our concern.
Well, I mean, they don't like the artwork on there, I'm sure there's reasons why people would oppose things. I don't
I like your cave analogy.
yeah, you know. I know in my downtown, I live in Wallingford, and they had an artist paint just like some flower planters, really beautiful color, really added some nice color. And I was talking to Liz Davis, the Main Street manager. Oh my God, I'm getting calls of everyone hating it. And it's like, what? It's beautiful. It's like a little pop of color. And so, I mean,
so beauty is subjective. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is. Right.
Oh, very good. And Peter, did you have something else to say?
The only thing I was going to add is, maybe they didn't. I mean, obviously the project was designed to fix a perceived problem, and maybe that message, should have been emphasized that we're not just doing this for the sake of doing it. It's resolving some safety issues and some of those things. So maybe that message, if it had been put
Yeah.
out there early on would have been the reason why people should support it.
Yeah, right. Coming in with like a solution to something that maybe people didn't even realize it was a problem, right?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's great. I think that absolutely goes to what I think everyone has said here, being more preemptive in that messaging, understanding people's different perspectives on the issues, whether or not, you know, they actually do or do not exist, but being a little bit more proactive and anticipating. Um, but also, if you're doing one-on-one engagement with these stakeholder groups along the way, you can have those, you know, conversations before putting in the multi-million dollar grant project, you know, getting the contractors and everything along, right?
Kristen, I have a question, if that's okay.
Please.
What is your advice when it comes to cave people? I think about how it is so easy for people to complain about everything on a keyboard. And if you're trying to use Facebook or social media to not only gain attention, but support, most likely, no matter what your project is, you're going to have the people who are not going to approve of it. How do you minimize that? Do you avoid it? Do you think you just have to deal with it because it's going to happen no matter what? What are your thoughts?
Yeah. So, and I definitely want to hear from some folks in the room who've, you know, been doing this work for a while and have come across all different sorts of people. But I think one, you know, cave people are inevitable in this type of work. So I think one, that has to just be understood. And then two, I'm sorry, I forgot who had mentioned it, but maybe it was Sean, you know, kind of like how this person might be loud, but they're just one person, you know, they're spamming the Facebook post. And so it seems like they're a much bigger deal than they actually are. I think we sometimes are giving too much attention to a very small group of people or one individual, you know. And you know, there's obviously a lot of personalities involved, and you know, is it someone that can be kind of, you know, neutralized in a coffee conversation off to the side? Maybe they, something happened to them 10 years ago and they have a chip on their shoulder about anything that the city has done, right? I mean, that's a common occurrence. But it's important, right, to, you know, if these cave people are really, you know, their argument is not substantial, you know, it's not it doesn't really hold water, you know, it's important to kind of find the people who are in support and have them, you know, kind of make them louder, right, than these naysayers. But I mean, that's my opinion. I know it's a lot easier said than done, but does anyone else have anything to add?
Are you,
Kristen, that's absolutely right. I mean, I think if you're going to do something, you need to have some champions, local champions that are going to echo and amplify your message to counteract the naysayers, because there always will be people that are opposed. Sorry if I cut somebody else off.
oh, no, just real quick. I'm just, as an example for myself, I live in Milford and we have, you know, the Milford, like 17 pages of everything. Um, I don't know how possible it is, but I know like one of the pages, the moderator of the page, because it started getting out of control, was essentially saying, you know, if you're not going to say anything, like if things get out of hand with the comments, she's like, I'm removing it. Like it's not, this is not doing anything good for our community. So possibly trying to get in touch with the page moderators, it might be a good option. It's definitely, since she started doing that, a much more pleasant page to look on, right? You know, you're gonna have somebody say something, but it's not gonna be as extreme as it might be otherwise.
Yeah. Very good. Awesome. All right. We're going to move on here to our one-page project flyer. So a couple things to note here. So partly this flyer is part of a deliverable as part of this program. You can So this template that is up on your screen, you can find it printed out in your binder on page 60, 67 and 68. You can also, sorry, I'm going to like call out a bunch of page numbers here. And tab 1, page 3, you'll find the QR code where you can access the Canva template that you can edit yourself. We are providing this template because we're not all graphic designers. If you have graphic design ability on your team, please do not feel like you have to use this template. We just wanted to make it easy for the teams that don't have that resource to kind of plug and play and use this. But if you have your own abilities, please use that template here. The key part is that we're hitting on all the key aspects of our flyer to describe our project. I'm going to just hit on these things kind of super high level. This QR code, which Ani sent out these slides yesterday, goes to a YouTube video that breaks down all of these things much more in depth. So you can feel free and go back to that and review that video. So let's go over this page flyer here. Before I do that, what I want you to do in your teams when you are creating this project flyer, think of one stakeholder that you are trying to engage with. So is that you want donors for your project, to sponsor the program? Is it, you want that the businesses on Main Street to be involved? Is it the arts community you want to be a part of the mural project, right? That will really help you in developing a really effective flyer based on everything that we have just talked about today. All right. So with that in mind, let's walk through this template here. So first and foremost, it needs to be, visually appealing, easy to read. We've already talked about the importance of pictures. The more pictures, the better. If you have renderings, before and after shots of, or the before kind of shot and what you think might be there after your project is really important. We want an easy to reference project title. So something, right, that people can just call it the blank project or something like that, but it's easy for people to recognize and reference. There's a compelling headline, right? So this is a headline that kind of gives, it's very benefit oriented. In this example here, this is an edible walkable trails project throughout the downtown. And so kind of a fun, compelling headline, connecting downtown through flavorful adventures, right? So we're connecting downtown. We have kind of this idea. It's going to be a little interesting, a little fun, but it's compelling. It draws you in. We have an area for a succinct project overview, so people immediately understand what we're trying to do. And then also a section for the why. And maybe depending on your project, these two can be combined. But why are we doing this? What's the vision? We need to, make sure we're appealing to people's kind of emotions, right? To why we're doing something, to win them over and to be champions of our projects. Having logos on project flyers to show credibility and support can be really important. And you'll see in some of the examples in your binder of past flyers from cohorts, they've used, our logo on there. They felt that helped them give a little bit more credibility. You could put the town seal on there, right? But logos can provide some credibility. On the back side, we're highlighting key elements or aspects of the project. So our key features here, not to be confused with benefits. Key elements of a project and benefits of a project are two different things. And it's important for us not to assume people will just automatically understand the benefits of the project. Right. So in this example here, a key element is edible landscaping. So we're going to use plants and trees that are edible. And a benefit of that is health and wellness. We want to educate people on the different types of fresh food that they can eat or what have you, right? There are two different things. A timeline, if it's appropriate for your project, especially if you're installing something, can give a lot of transparency and help with that kind of building community trust. Now, you can absolutely put an asterisk, subject to change, right? Because we know timelines change often, but having a general sense of a timeline. Hey, if I'm, let's say I'm submitting this survey because you want my input, I'm going to see some type of end result of that survey 6 months from now or something. But that timeline can help with transparency. And a big one is don't forget the call to action. So a call to action means that whoever is reading this flyer knows what to do next. They read this, oh my gosh, this is the best thing ever. How can I get involved? So that's either donate now, sign up here to volunteer, sign up for our newsletter to get updates on the project, follow us on social media, right? Give us an email if you want to, bring coffee to our next meeting. I don't know what, but you always want to have a call to action on anything that you are developing. And even better when you have a specific ask in mind of what you want them to do. Any questions? Okay. This is an example from Thomaston. You can also see this in your binders, was that page 71. And there's also another flyer, East Hartford, in there. Neither of these flyers, these flyers are good. There's room for improvement, no doubt about it. But I wanted to bring this up and just based on what we've been talking about today and going through different, parts of the project, any feedback that you might have on this flyer here, good or bad?
I'm in Deep River. We actually were going to try and incorporate a QR code as well, to kind of get a direct call to action in terms of sponsorships of the lampposts, and the aesthetic enhancements. So hopefully, that works. Obviously it worked for Thomaston, maybe, but
Yeah. No, I think they have a really strong call to action here. That's great. QR codes are great. What else? I think one area of improvement on their flyer is there isn't a clear project title. So their project is focused on signage in their downtown. And it just isn't when you read it, you can understand it, but there's not one clear project title. Which could potentially be confusing for folks. So I think that's an area of how this could have improved.
Would you say that there's benefits to also creating a flyer that just has like one side with information that can go up on community boards or in windows of shops or anything like that?
Oh, sure. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yep. Yeah. I would just make sure that if it's going to be just one-sided, right, that it has the important information. You have a goal for that communication piece and that flyer supports that goal.
Should there be only one flyer?
No, I don't think so. I think that it depends again on the audiences. So, um, obviously they're all aligned messaging, but if there's different call to actions for different groups of people, there can be multiple flyers.
I'm curious about your comment about the Thomaston title. Their title is Gearing Up for the Future. Is the opportunity that you're talking about making the title be more specific to what the actual project is?
So I would say gearing up for the future is more of that like compelling headline. It's kind of like a more of like an overarching kind of brand campaign, if you will, or
Yep.
initiative, but not necessarily this project that is focused on downtown signage. So if there was, I mean, downtown signage project, I mean, not very exciting, but just so people immediately know this is what I'm reading about.
I see.
Yeah, I feel like they could have put like you could have gearing up for the future and then, colon like downtown sign improvements or something because it does take a lot of reading to like actually figure out what it is. And gearing up and with all the clock imagery at first glance, I my assumptions didn't go to what that project actually is.
Yeah. Yep. Very good. Thanks, Zoe. Okay. Any other comments or questions before we wrap up here? Very good. Okay. Next up, as we close out today's session, I want to talk about next month and kind of give you the rundown of what to expect. So, next month, we will be in person. We will be meeting at Eversource in Berlin, and directions will follow there. We'll get
They're
very
in
specific.
the calendar invite.
Oh, excellent. Perfect.
So
Great.
just open up your calendar invite and there's directions attached. You just go up the hill and it's where the credit union is where you enter.
Perfect. Yeah. And so we'll be there to enter the way there. But doors will open at 8:30. We'll have some light breakfast options. It won't be as full of a spread as we had at our kickoff event, but we'll have some breakfast options for you. And then our program will begin at 9. And so this is what to expect. Each team, you're going to get about 20 minutes. And in that 20 minutes, about 10 minutes of that will be presenting your flyer and your project plan. You won't have to go over, line by line, task by task, but an overall presentation of where your flyer is at, where your project plan is at. Assign one person to present or make sure, different speaking roles are assigned ahead of time. Then the last 10 minutes will be open Q&A, but this is really all about like feedback. So, hey, have you considered this? I saw this in this other town, right? We're being very helpful. We're trying to make sure that all of our projects are the best that they can be. We will also have a review form that everyone will take a moment to fill out and provide some additional feedback. So if you will, that will most likely be on a Google form. So if you have bring your laptop, bring or your smartphone so you can type in your comments there will be very, very helpful. And then we will, each team will get their respective feedback back. It's okay for the flyer and the project plan to be drafts. I mean, like it's really, really okay. They're drafts. This is meant to be helpful and just to kind of keep you guys on track and moving along with developing these pieces as part of the program. So, please don't get too hung up on, oh, this is not perfect. We don't like this image yet. Like it's totally fine. You'll have time to make updates and everything like that. We'll be keeping things really, on time so that we will get out there no later than 11:30. And if we can get out there, if we can leave earlier, we will. And we'll send reminders again, but send your project plan and flyer to us by April 7th. We'll have everything queued up on our end on our PowerPoint, so that will be ready to share. Any questions?
Should they bring any handouts?
No, you don't have to bring handouts. No. if anything, we can print that in-house if everyone sends them in on time. Yeah. All right. You'll get all this information again in email. So if any questions do come up, don't be afraid to ask. And lastly, some next steps here. So work on that project audience exercise, page 64. I mean, this is totally at your own discretion, but going through that exercise of thinking through, okay, these are the key stakeholders that we want to communicate or engage in our project, what's on their minds, how we can be, anticipate their challenges and wants will be very important for you. But the biggest thing is to start working on your one-page flyer and continue to work on your project plan. Next week, we're starting our on-site coaching visits. So really excited about that. Westbrook, you're up first. We'll see you on Monday. And I think over the next 2 weeks, we'll be seeing everyone. So we'll be seeing you soon, but always feel free to email us if you have any questions. And last thing, I forgot to set up an evaluation form for today's session. So you'll be getting that in an email soon here. So please take a moment to fill that out when you get it. But with that said, any questions or comments before we sign off for today? All right. Awesome, guys. Thank you so much for your time. I look forward to seeing you all in person.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.